Well, our next and last case tonight is a robbery that anyone who was near the City of London on Friday, October the 18th may remember. It brought the whole area to a virtual standstill. It's the armed attack on a Group 4 security van making a routine call to a bank in High Holborn. The key to finding the gunman may well lie in the two cars which were used to escape from the scene. They'd both been stolen on the same day 3 months beforehand, and our reconstruction begins on Wednesday the 17th of July in St John's Wood in northwest London. It's shortly before closing time at a car showroom just down the road from Lord's Cricket Ground. The delivery manager there specifically remembers two men coming in.
Can I help you at all?
No, it's all right. I've been with
Okay, fine.
Just browsing.
They struck me as being rather different from our normal customers and the clients that we get here, especially two men together. It'll either be normally one on their own or with their wife and their family. I particularly remember the fair-haired man out of the two. He had about collar-length curly blonde hair. He was about 29 to 35, about 5'7" to 5'9", I would think.
A few minutes later, the two men coolly helped themselves to one of the second-hand cars. The valet assumed it was being collected by customers. It's a dark blue Volvo 340 with a spoiler on the back. Where did it go, and where was it kept between July the 17th and October the 18th? And on that same day, just about 5 miles away, a white Peugeot 309 was stolen. It had been waiting outside Warwick Wright Motors just off the Holloway Road. This is Holborn, one of the busiest parts of the city, both for traffic and pedestrians. In the thick of it all, at about 10:30 in the morning on Friday the 18th of October, a Group 4 van was making a routine stop at the National Westminster Bank in High Holborn. A workman from the building next door saw two men hanging around.
All the time, mate.
They're 10:30.
They seemed quite agitated and obviously waiting for something.
Give us the money! Give us the money! Got them! Give us the money! One more!
We haven't got any more.
A second Group 4 van, seeing the raid, alerted their control room. The gunman is thought to be about 35 and quite short, around 5'7".
Go!
A motorcycle courier, Michael Clark, decided to give chase. The second Group 4 van also followed for a short distance. Michael wasn't to know that in the car pulling out behind him was an accomplice. He managed to keep up with them round Bloomsbury Square and into Bedford Place. Well, DS Andrew Murphy's in charge of this investigation. Now, as that courier began to get to his feet, another motorcyclist stopped to offer help. You'd like this man to come forward and contact you?
Yes, we would, Sue. He was there almost immediately, but unfortunately he left before police arrived. He may have seen something that we don't know about, and we would ask him to contact us.
Yes, so if that was you, please do give us a ring tonight. What the courier did was very brave. It was also a very dangerous thing to do, as we saw.
It was extremely brave. Thankfully his injuries are minor, and he's now back at work. We don't normally advise people to get involved, but Michael certainly was brave.
Now, the Peugeot and the Volvo, as I said earlier, are probably the key to solving this investigation. They were stolen on the 17th of July. So what do you think happened to them between then and 18th of October? There's a 3-month gap between the time they were stolen and the time of the robbery.
We're quite certain that they were left outside in the street, not garaged. We're particularly interested in the Peugeot. This has suffered some damage between being stolen and between the robbery. We'd like anybody that has seen the car in the street, can remember the damage, to come forward or can explain how the damage was caused.
Yeah, somebody may well remember actually having an accident with that Peugeot.
That's right.
What did the gunman do immediately after they'd caused the courier to come off his bike? What happened next?
They both drove off in their separate vehicles. The Peugeot was abandoned outside the Bloomsbury Theatre in Gordon Street. The Volvo was abandoned a short distance away in Fitzroy Street, near to the Post Office Tower. This is the vehicle we're particularly interested in here, and we'd like anybody that saw the men leave the Volvo to come forward.
Right. And finally, we can give one good description of the gunman. Could you run through that for us?
Yes, certainly. He's 35 years of age, about 5 foot 7 inches tall, well built. He had fair, wavy, curly hair, and he had a couple of days' stubble on his face.
And what about the other man? Can you give us a description of the accomplice?
We can. He again is about 35 years of age, about 5 foot 7 inches tall. He was medium build with dark hair. He possibly of Mediterranean origin.
Right, Mr. Murphy, thank you. If you think you might recognise either of these descriptions, or if you can help in any way, then please do call us now, here in the studio, on 081 811 8181, or you can call the Flying Squad at New Scotland Yard on 071 230 2301. That's 071 230 2301. Well, now to our last appeal for your help tonight, which is a robbery at Preston's jewellery store in Guildford in Surrey. What makes this crime particularly serious is the vicious treatment of the store's manager. Our reconstruction begins 4 days before the robbery on Tuesday the 3rd of December at Watco's Paint Depot in Hackney in North London. Having just loaded up a consignment of paint, these two delivery men decided to have a cup of tea before moving out. When they saw someone driving their van, they weren't at first surprised. Workers often need to move vans around the depot. It was only several minutes later that they realised it had been stolen. Four days later, Saturday the 7th of December. It was 6 o'clock and Preston's was closing for the day. That night, the staff had planned to get together for pre-Christmas drinks and a meal.
I'll just come and change first.
Oh, all right. We'll see you later at the pub.
Yeah, okay, bye.
Mark Riley, the manager, always parked his car outside the city centre, and two of his colleagues gave him a lift there.
Get on the floor, okay. Face down and put your arms out.
Didn't see a great deal of them at all because I was blindfolded almost immediately. I gained the impression that there were 3 people. 2 of them were calm, in control. They seemed like they were accomplished or well rehearsed. The third, however, he was more agitated, he was uneasy, he wanted everything to hurry up to be more quickly.
Right! Stick you understands, don't you? Yeah. You just do your bit, you can be over your business for Christmas.
They basically wanted information on how to gain access to the shop, to turn off the alarm system and to open the safe. I did proceed to give them the combination to the safe. They seemed to feel that it was perhaps more complicated than they'd at first thought.
Where's the keys? In the briefcase.
The side door to Preston's is in Jeffrey's Passage, which is a busy cut-through from Guildford High Street. At this point, having deactivated the alarm, the plan should have been foiled by backup security arrangements. Unfortunately, that particular night, there was a temporary fault in the system. But having gained access to the safe and knowing the right combination, they didn't manage to open it.
Scotch and coke, please.
I'll have a pint of lager, please.
Hi, how are you? Move along, move along.
Okay.
Get on. Is Mark not here yet? No, it should be here in a minute.
They had gagged me, so my first concern was to remove the gag because it had restricted my breathing quite considerably, and this I managed to do.
You've been a naughty boy, haven't you, telling us porkies, eh, huh?
What do we do now, number one?
Carry on with plan one, as we said.
This is what's going to happen. We're going to take you back to the shop and you're going to open the safe for us.
Not a pint. Yes, please. Jane?
No, Mark should be here by now. I think I should go and look for him. With Mark being the manager of like a prestigious jewellers, it's always a possibility in the back of your mind that something like a kidnap or something of that sort could actually happen. So by the time when he decided to go and he had still hadn't turned up, then I was really quite anxious, so it was very important to actually go back and check the shop first.
It's now about 7:15.
All right, now.
Anyone who saw them that night would remember. Mark's jaw had been broken and his nose was bleeding profusely. He may have looked like a drunk being supported by two friends.
They lifted the blindfold, but made sure I kept my head straight facing the safe and shone a torch on the dial of the safe. So all I could see was the dial on the safe. And they instructed me to open the safe. This I did manage to do, although it was difficult because I was still handcuffed, and particularly the right hand was very, very tight, and my right hand was completely numb.
Take him downstairs.
One of the men took me down into the basement of the shop. This was possibly one of the most frightening parts of the whole situation, because by now I was no use effectively. And at this point I thought, if this is going to happen, if they're going to shoot me, then this is when it's going to be. So this was obviously a very frightening time.
It was just about 7:30 as Jane Redman arrived at Preston's with her boyfriend. At first, they were relieved to see Mark's car outside.
We got to the shop, looked in the window, and at first we thought it was Mark in the safe. There's just a guy there with a trench coat on.
But a split second later, I realised that it wasn't. I turned, and anything I could think of was to make it more difficult for the robbers to get away by taking their car.
Right, come on, let's go!
Police, please.
Well, that really was a terrible ordeal for the manager, who seems to be coping well now, 3 months on. But Mick Bobchek, the first clue to this crime might lie in the paint that the van contained at the time it was stolen from Watco's in Hackney in North London. It's very distinctive paint, and if somebody's got it, they'll recognise it.
Yes, that's correct. The van had been just loaded with 47 tins of this type of paint. If anyone has come by any of these tins, bar from the Watco depot, then we'd like to hear from them.
And there's a kind of double compartment in one of those tins, which, as I say, if you've got, you'll recognise. It must have been quite busy in that high street. It's a Saturday evening. Loads of people surely must have seen what happened, you think?
Yes, it was around 7:15 on a Saturday night, so we'd like to hear from anyone who may have witnessed this event. We do have a sighting of a man who is standing outside the Olympus Sports Shop, which is situated opposite Preston's Jewellers. This would have been around about 7 o'clock. He is described about 6 foot tall, and he was wearing a Timberland style type of shoe. We do need to eliminate this man from our inquiry, so we'd like him to come forward.
You might have seen something vital, of course. Are there any other people in particular that you want to speak to?
Yes, in fact there were 3 young women who were sitting on a bench which is opposite Preston's itself. They must have seen something, so I'd like them to come forward, as they may have something that could help us.
And presumably other witnesses must have seen the men running away after they'd left Jeffrey's Passage. Where did they go after that?
Yes, they would have merged onto North Street, right opposite Groom's Public House, which would have been quite busy at that time of night, around 7:30. So we'd be interested in anybody who saw 3 men racing out of the passageway.
Right, if you're in any doubt, just to remind you of the date, it's Saturday the 7th of December. And of course there's somebody who's you've had a couple of phone conversations with, who you'd like to contact you again.
Yes, we've had an anonymous caller who's rang twice with information in relation to the stolen van, and I would very much like to hear from him again.
And finally, somebody might recognise some of the stolen jewellery. Some of it was pretty unusual.
Yes, some of the items are quite rare. This is an emerald and diamond ring. These emerald earrings are quite old. This is a diamond and sapphire crucifix. Also stolen was a Shakudo Japanese locket, again quite rare.
Just a few examples there. If you can help, then please get in touch. The number here to the studio is 081 811 8181, or you can ring Guildford Police Station direct, and that number's 0483 31111. That's 0483, the code for Guildford, 31111. Our next case is a series of robberies in London. There have in fact been 7 since the beginning of last month, and police believe there's every reason to expect more unless you can help. In the film that follows, the victims themselves have helped us reconstruct what happened.
One of the guys said to me, "Give me the keys." He just grabbed me and said, "Get in the car," and he shoved me in the back of my car. I was in the back of the car with my head down, and every time I looked up or tried to move everything, they said, "Don't look at us, don't look at us, keep your head down or we'll kill you." The whole time through the whole ordeal, I really thought they were going to kill me. They said, "Give me your keys, your wallet, your watch, everything. If you don't give us everything, we find any more, we're going to kill you." It was just very, very terrifying. I'd never been in a situation like that, and I never want to be in one again.
You're getting out. Don't try anything. I'll be watching you.
By the time they reached this bureau de change, they'd been driving around in his blue Golf for more than an hour.
So I thought, if I comply with them, do everything they say, they'll let me go. They kept on saying that, but as the ordeal went longer and longer, I realised that everything they said, they just changed their mind all the time. Once I did what they said, they just asked me to do something else. When I had the opportunity to get away, I just ran like hell.
OK, chaps. Well, we've had 2 jobs now, and it strikes me that we've got the beginning of a series here. They're armed, they're dangerous, and they certainly put their victims through a terrifying ordeal. Fortunately, we have a video from the first job, which is particularly good on one of the men. We're not going to release it yet, but I'll let you see it now. I've got some stills to show you from this video, but watch the whole video first.
Witnesses described this man as having greasy hair and an unhealthy appearance. The day after that briefing, the 2 men used the Golf for their next hold-up.
Open it.
There's an inner safe which is on the time. It won't open for 15 minutes.
Right, well, we'll wait.
I was in a state of real shock at the time. I felt like I was sort of underwater and everything was happening in slow motion. I'd seen a customer actually in the shop as they'd come in, and I just hoped like mad that this customer would have realised what was going on.
Stop! The customer had seen what happened and flagged down a passing police van.
There's another robbery going on at the wine rack.
Christ, get out! Move!
Both of the men were armed. The Moroccan-looking man with the scarred face and black hat had a knife, and the white man had a gun. As I chased him from the shop, the white man was pointing the gun at me, and the Moroccan man was shouting, "Shoot him, shoot him." They sped off in the blue Golf GTI and were last seen heading towards Wandsworth Bridge.
All right, thanks for that. OK, so far we've had 5 offences. 3 of them have been in Hampstead, close to the Finchley Road, 1 at Chelsea and the 1 at Fulham. It's pretty clear that these men are dangerous. They're armed. It's my opinion they're not going to stop until they're caught.
Get in the car. Keep your head down.
I really had absolutely no idea what they wanted. It could have been anything. I was very scared. What would happen to me if I did get into the car? So that was why I tried to get the gun. It was a split-second thing. I thought it was the lesser of 2 evils.
Well, Bob Fenton joins us in the studio. Presumably you wouldn't advise anyone to tackle anyone who's armed.
No, we tell people not to resist in these situations, but you can never account for people who react on the spur of the moment. It's human nature.
Now, are you sure all these attacks have been carried out by the same 2 men?
Yes, we're positive. There are 3 things that link them. The descriptions which have been given are particularly good, and they carry through all these offences. The vehicles themselves carry on from one offence to another. In other words, one stolen is then used in the next offence. And the general areas of the offences and the method is very, very similar.
All right. Can we have the descriptions then of those 2 men? The very good one, first of all, the man in the video.
Yes, there is a very clear picture of him. He's 20s, early 30s, 5'8" to 5'10" tall. He's slim, particularly slim in the face. He wears glasses, but he sometimes wears different type of glasses in style.
And scruffily dressed.
And scruffily dressed. In fact, someone described the clothing as sort of jumble sailish.
So somebody, I'm sure, will recognise him. What about the second man?
The second man is described variously. He has been described as of mixed race and also North African Mediterranean type. He's in his 20s. He's slightly taller, 5'10" to 6 feet tall, and there is a suggestion that he has a scar on his left cheek running from the eye downwards.
Now, one clue might be that somebody may have seen the blue Golf GTI during the time the robbers had it. That was between the 12th of March and the 16th of March.
Yes, this vehicle, in fact, was abandoned in the multi-storey car park in West Ealing behind British Home Stores, and I would appeal to anyone that may have seen this vehicle during that period to come forward.
And, of course, the other car, they still have the BMW, the black BMW.
Yes, in fact, the black BMW has, in fact, been used in one other offence, which is not recorded here today, Friday of last week, between 3 and 4 in the afternoon. The man that's described as the Arab-type man, in fact, committed an armed robbery with a knife at a petrol station in Acton. He was believed to be on his own, and that particular vehicle was used.
Right, so that was 6 days ago, and that means there have now been 7 attacks altogether.
Yes.
So you still very much believe, do you, that what you said in the film, that these men will only stop once they've been caught?
Yes, they are clearly desperados. When they were in the wine rack, they were quite prepared to wait for 20 minutes, even while members of the public came in and were being served, for that time not to come off. And as you saw, they went and attacked the officers as well on there to get away. I'm quite sure that these men are not going to stop until they're arrested. The first victim was particularly shocked in this instance. He still hasn't got over it to this day.
Right. Mr. Fenton, thank you very much indeed. If you do recognise the man in the video, if you know anything at all about these attacks, your call could really prevent other people suffering. Here's the number if you can help. It's 081 811 8181. Or you can call the incident room in Kensington, and that's another London number, 081 741 6001. That's 081 741 6001. Our next case could very well have been a murder. In fact, there's no doubt it would have been. Only the victim's knowledge of first aid techniques and extraordinary presence of mind saved her life. So irrational was the attack that police have asked us to protect the identity of everyone involved. The real witnesses appear in our film. We only hear their voices. The witnesses don't appear, we just hear their voices. We don't use the victim's real name, and she only appears in silhouette. Finally, the routine you'll see for collecting takings has been entirely changed since the attempted robbery we're about to see took place. The reconstruction begins on Monday the 23rd of March at Kirkstall in Leeds. The Kirkstall Lights pub is the head office of a chain of 4 pubs in the West Yorkshire area. Marion had been the company's secretary for the past 3 years.
Right then, let's be off.
It's Monday. Dave was to spend the morning visiting the other 3 pubs and collecting some of the takings. And for the first time, Marion was going with him.
Another thing is, there's about...
Dave thought it more beneficial if I could come along. He could do the monies and I could do the paperwork. By going out, I get an insight into exactly what the directors are doing and what's happening. I was looking forward to going out on the day.
Their last port of call was to be the Travellers' Rest in the Crossgates area of Leeds. And during the morning, various witnesses noticed 2 men hanging about near the pub. At about midday, this secretary noticed a police car arriving on a routine call.
As soon as they saw the police car, then they moved across the road, so obviously that he wouldn't see them, you know, so they looked a bit suspicious then.
Around that time, Dave and Marion were 17 miles away at their first stop in Bradford. While Marion checked through the paperwork, Dave collected up the takings. A few minutes later, they were on their way to the next pub at Hawksworth, another 9 miles on. Back at the Travellers' Rest, another witness saw the 2 men about 100 yards from where they'd been seen 15 minutes earlier.
It surprised me why they were stood there, because there's no bus stops, there's no taxi rank, there's no shop. So definitely up to no good.
Dave and Marion were finished at Hawksworth by about 1 o'clock.
We were at Hawksworth just long enough to collect the monies. We then moved on to the Leeds City Centre Bank, where Dave then banked the monies.
Half an hour later, having deposited all the cash, they arrived at the Travellers' Rest.
Come on, I'm starving.
Me too. Are we going to have lunch first?
You bet. We'll leave the paperwork till later.
Okay. I don't know what I want to eat.
About 20 minutes after that, 500 yards away from the Travellers' Rest, another witness was startled by 2 men sprinting past him and driving off at breakneck speed in a silver Vauxhall Cavalier. They turned off left in the direction of the Travellers' Rest.
Thanks.
We're just about to shut the food counter. Would you like anything else?
Not for me, thanks.
No, I'm fine, thanks.
The Cavalier was next seen parked opposite Dave's BMW in the pub car park. It's now about 3 o'clock.
We'll go straight home. Look at him there.
Although he was laughing, the man appeared to be alone.
No, he's got to laugh about.
It was 3:10 when Dave and Marion were ready to leave.
Bloody close.
I thought at that point, that it was some of the lads just having a joke with me, because that's the way that the company is. We are a sort of a friendly company.
Get off!
I then found myself looking down the barrel of a gun. The gun was 2 foot away from my face. At this point I realised it wasn't what I suspected in the first place.
Give me the money!
I gave the man the bag. The bag was out of my hand, and then the man shot me. It was very calculated, and I felt he knew exactly what he was doing.
Marion was shot in the neck at point-blank range.
Call an ambulance! Now!
I realised at this point that I had to get down onto the floor on all fours, get rid of the blood out of the airways, and come back again, just to keep conscious.
Yes, Travellers Rest at Cross Gates. We need an ambulance, quick. Yeah, I think someone's been shot in the car park.
Moments later, the Cavalier was seen speeding down Bryan Crescent nearby, closely followed by a silver Ford Orion.
The attacker who shot me, I really would like to ask the man, face to face, why he would want to shoot me. I have nothing against anyone at all, especially when I gave him the bag. I can't understand why he would want to shoot me. I have 2 daughters, I have a husband, and I have family. He could have robbed a lot of people of one person.
Well, John Chambers, Marion was very lucky to survive that shot.
Well, it was more than lucky. It was practically a miracle, because the bullet went straight through her neck, and it missed a jugular vein and a spinal column by fractions of an inch.
And she still hasn't fully recovered, has she?
No, she still hasn't fully recovered. I anticipate she will recover physically, but it'll take a while for her to recover mentally.
Now, we saw at the end of the film the attackers driving off in the Silver Cavalier, followed by a Silver Orion. You're sure that Orion was involved in the incident?
Yes, we believe that the Orion was also used by the attackers. It's a Silver Orion. It's a 1.6 gear injection. We're keen to trace that vehicle. The Cavalier was abandoned 6/10 of a mile away in Sandway, near to the junction with the York Road. We believe they transferred to the Orion and would like to hear from anyone who might have seen them.
And another positive thing, you do have very good descriptions of the suspects.
Yes, we do. The first man is about 25 years of age. He's 5 foot 8 inches tall with a stocky build. He has short blonde hair. He was wearing a brown stone-washed jacket and blue jeans. The second man, again 25 years of age, with a heavy build. He has dark brown hair and a very distinctive bushy moustache. He's described as wearing a tan leather bomber jacket and dark trousers.
What about the third man, the man who seemed to be laughing to himself, sitting in the Cavalier in the Travellers Rest car park?
Well, we have an artist's impression of him. He's described as being in his late 20s. He's got a thin face, a small chin, and his hair is described as mousy, short and neatly cut.
Do you know which of the men fired the gun?
No, we don't, because the gunman was wearing a ski mask similar to this.
Right, and that's...
Note it's got distinctive red stitching or red piping around the face.
It is very hard to understand why the man shot Marion, even though he'd taken the money. What sort of person do you think you're dealing with?
Well, he's obviously a very dangerous man indeed. As the film has shown, she handed over the bag, she did exactly as he required, and he quite calmly, quite deliberately shot her in the face. This man is clearly very violent, he's very, very irrational, he must be caught, because the next victim might not be so lucky.
Right, it's very important that you do ring if you can help us at all with that then. Detective Inspector Chambers and his colleagues are waiting here for your call, and this is the number here, of course, 081 811 8181, or you can call Millgarth Police Station in Leeds direct, and that's 0532 413 022. That's 0532, the code for Leeds, 413 022.
Has anyone offered you some electrical goods which have fallen off the back of a lorry? The truth, of course, is that nothing's ever stolen without someone having been a victim. Our next case is one in which the choice of victim seems to have been random. In fact, the whole crime might have been opportunist. This is Sevenoaks in Kent on Friday the 24th of April at 20 to 9 in the morning. Linda Cottam, a manageress for Seeboard, was arriving to open up the local electricity showroom.
Good morning, Sevenoaks Seeboard. Linda speaking. Can I help you?
Hello, Linda. It's Peter from Thomas Well's office here. Can you confirm you received your delivery this morning?
I don't know. I've only just arrived and unlocked. I haven't been in the storeroom yet. Why? Is there a problem?
Well, I'm not quite sure. Bob Penny, who was due to come to you this morning, hasn't arrived at 2 other stores in the area.
Ian, mate, what time are you going to be missed?
Due at Richmond, 7:30.
I'll just pop into the stockroom and check. Would you like me to call you back, Peter, or will you hold on? OK.
Look, don't fit me up. I asked you what you got in the van. Now, what's it worth?
I'm not messing you about. I'm telling you, it's cookers, heavy gear, heavy stuff.
Oh, well, actually, Peter, I think we've got a problem here.
Hello, Bob. Bob, this is... Peter, it's just gone dead.
It's 5:30 in the morning, and Sevenoaks was Bob Penny's first delivery.
Normally we don't work on a Friday, but we'd had a bank holiday the weekend before. They'd asked us to come in on that Friday to make up. I've got a full load on the lorry, but at Sevenoaks should have been just a brief stop. I did notice on one of my return trips to the lorry that there was a Cortina turning in the courtyard. There was 2 men in it. But on my return journey, I noticed that the car was empty, so I presumed that the 2 men had gone into the flats above the shop.
Inside. Get inside. I said, get inside. Right, get your jacket off. Come on, get it off, quick. Hurry up. Keys.
Well, as the man with the beard had a knife, I wasn't going to argue with him.
What are them keys there? What do they do?
Well, they are the keys to the lorry. They're my wagon keys.
I was scared and confused. Just didn't know what was happening next.
Get your trousers off. Don't you look at me. Keep your head down. What about a tail lift on a lorry? How does that work?
It's got 2 buttons, one up, one down. It's got some flaps, 2 at the side and 2 at the back. If you don't lift them in the right order, the tailgate doesn't open. And if you don't lift the lever at the side of the tailgate, the whole thing don't work anyway.
You got that, Mick? Do some laces. Don't you look at me. Keep your head down.
The bearded man that was doing most of the talking, his speech was slurred and he smelt heavily of alcohol, which was also a bit frightening.
Right. You're coming with us.
And they made it apparent that I was going with them. And I thought at that point that I was an embarrassment to them. I'd seen too much, so I didn't know where I was going, what they were going to do with me or anything. I did notice that as we were getting in the Cortina, the first 3 digits of the registration were WWW.
Get in there. Get right in. Lay down. Keep your head down. Go on, right down. That's it. Right, stay there.
The younger man drove the lorry, which followed the Cortina out of Sevenoaks. Bob recognised the route as the A21 towards London and saw several landmarks. The Badger's Mount Hotel, and up the road, the Fantail restaurant at Farnborough.
How old are you?
42.
42, eh? I'm 42. You got any family?
I wasn't sure whether the bearded man had the knife on him or not, but if he was talking to me, I felt it wise to answer him back.
I've got to make some phone calls. Ian, mate, what time are you going to be missed?
On the one occasion Bob saw the driver of his lorry, he seemed clearly competent with heavy vehicles. Did you see this small convoy? At about 6:30, they reached Bromley. There'd be few people in the town that early in the morning. But maybe you were on a bus and saw a man lying in a car in his underpants and mouthing, "Help, police." Bob recalls 3 women on the bus and, of course, the driver. Just after the town centre, they went through an estate like this. Possibly it was Downham, and the driver seemed exultant.
We've done it. We've only bloody done it.
Did you notice these early morning visitors on your estate? And why did they now want to stop Bob seeing their route? In fact, we know they drove for about 5 minutes and went past a British Telecom depot leading to a Waitrose car park. Did you see something rather unusual take place here?
Right, come on, get out. Out you get. Come on, hurry up. Get out, quick. Keep your head down, don't look.
When they put me in the boot, it was very disorientating, because then I didn't know where we were going or what was happening. I'd already been travelling for quite a while. I just felt that I had to get out of the shoelaces because they were hurting by then. I did manage to get out in the end.
Go on. Right, come on, get your head up. In there.
The boot was very uncomfortable, and the back axle was very noisy, and the petrol fumes were coming through.
This is southeast London, Deptford, Rotherhithe, Peckham, New Cross, a region built round and under railway viaducts. Bob heard trains and another lorry. Maybe this is where the goods were transferred.
One of the men got in the car and moved the car to the other end of what I presumed was the yard. I think to be out of earshot. And then something quite unusual happened.
Wallet. I need your wallet. All right, mate. Go and get some breakfast, eh? Okay.
Bob believed he'd been abandoned. But an hour later, they'd returned, and after several stops came here to Rotherhithe. Did you see them dump the truck in Warndon Street at 9:45? This is a residence car park off Avonlea Road in Peckham. The Cortina arrived here 15 minutes later. Bob's been in the boot for over 3 hours.
Right, come on, out you get. Out you get, hurry up. Face the wall, get your stripes on. Here. Put them on. Keep facing the wall. Right. You've been a lucky bloke so far. We haven't hurt you. Now keep facing the wall.
I should say that Seeboard have quite radically changed their security procedures and delivery procedures because of that crime. John Han, in one way, it was an extraordinary tin pot affair, this. As I said at the beginning, it seemed to be something they just decided upon on the spur of the moment. On the other hand, armed with a knife, these men are presumably pretty dangerous.
A most terrifying ordeal for Bob Penny. He's of the opinion that it was an opportunist crime, and I tend to agree with him. But let's be fair, these men were armed with a knife. They were skulking around the back alleys at Sevenoaks at 5:30 in the morning. They're obviously no angels. And once they'd actually stolen the load, they soon knew who to telephone to offload it once they'd reached South London.
Are they local men? They seem to have local knowledge.
Not local to Sevenoaks, certainly as they were driving through the Downham estate, as we saw on the film. Bob Penny was under the impression that they knew the area well, and again, the Waitrose car park, if you're a stranger to the area, you would have great difficulty in finding it.
Now that bearded man was pretty distinctive and fairly drunk. He was swigging beer as they were driving along at times.
That's right. What we do know about him, he was obviously a drinker. Bob said he smelt very heavily of beer. He's a man who appeared to be subject to erratic moods. One minute he was very pleasant, the next he was very aggressive. He told Bob he was 42. We feel he might be slightly younger than that. The physical description, 5 foot 10 inches tall, stocky build, had a slight beer belly, had a full cropped beard, greyish short hair, and he spoke with a South London accent.
And the younger man, whom he called Mick at one stage, seemed to have been the owner of the Cortina.
That's right. There's a great possibility of that. What we know about the second man, he was white, mid to late 30s. He was more passive than the bearded man, 5 foot 11 to 6 foot inches tall, thin build, straight mousy hair, again spoke with a South London accent, and if I could reiterate, the bearded man called him Mick.
OK, and presumably you're going after all white Cortinas to eliminate them with WWW registration. Incidentally, if you've seen a jacket like this, a Seeboard jacket, Bob Pennis is still missing. It's got his name on the inside of it. Here's the number if you can help. It's 08181181181. You can speak to a detective, or if you prefer, ask for a BBC researcher. Or you can call the Sevenoaks Police Station direct on 0732 740055. That's 0732, the code for Sevenoaks, 740055.
Our final case is a robbery at a jewellery shop in the small town of Nelson in the Lancashire Pennines. It's an area where the crime rate is relatively low and the detection rate relatively high, so the townspeople were shocked at a raid on their local jewellers. Police feel the robbers may have come from outside the Nelson area, and in fact our reconstruction begins in the neighbouring county in Wakefield, West Yorkshire.
Well, I hadn't used the car for a couple of days, but when I went to bed about 10 o'clock, the car was still parked outside.
Radio Lancashire News at 1 o'clock. Good afternoon. The headlines: the temperature hots up in the electioneering.
It's 2 days later and 50 miles away in the Lancashire town of Nelson. Scotland Road, the main shopping street, was fairly quiet that Thursday. Glenn Britton has managed the jewellery shop for the past 6 years.
My father opened the shop about 25 years ago. We're quite well known throughout this area, but also we have a lot of clients from virtually all over the country. We specialise in the antique jewellery and watches and clocks, etc.
Later that afternoon, Susan Riley passed the shop, as she does every weekday after work. Her husband waits on the corner to drive them both home. It's 4:25.
Well, as we approached the junction of New Scotland Road, and I noticed a white Cavalier waiting to turn in, and I got quite a good look at the man sitting behind the driver. He seemed to be in his late 20s, quite a big bloke with black hair, probably a black moustache.
The one I could see best was the driver. He had a thinnish face, longish nose, and was quite mean looking, and straggly light brown hair. He was between about 25 and 30.
I commented to my wife that they looked a bit of a rough crew to be in such a nice car.
Is this the right quote?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. When did he say he'd been to collect it?
Late Monday afternoon.
Right, well, you'll have to ring up and check that
Right.
it'll definitely be back.
I'll phone in the morning.
All right, then.
Come on! Come on! Come on! Get in the back! Come on! Come on! Come on! All right, come on, let's go!
I was on the riverbank and I heard a noise like the crunching of stones. And I looked up and there was a car across the riverbank that had grinded to a halt. They appeared to be burying something in the leaves. Well, they all ran off, laughing and shouting. I lost sight of them when they went behind a row of houses near the motorway.
Well, Mr. Close, what were they burying?
Well, immediately after the car was abandoned, we found green sweatshirts, balaclavas, 2 baseball bats, and this piece of wood that looks like it may well have been involved in the point system of British Rail. It had on it the letters AY86 and then SWT with an arrow facing upwards and the numbers 86 again.
Southwestern Transport 86 maybe, somebody will tell us. But the boy lost sight of them as they headed towards the motorway. Where did they go next?
We have another witness who has seen a Fiesta type car parked on the motorway, on the slip road of the motorway. This car was displaying its hazard lights, although there was nobody in the vehicle. The significant point about this is that had the raiders run up the embankment onto the motorway, they would in fact have entered the motorway directly opposite where this car was parked.
Now, someone saw another apparent breakdown on the motorway at about the same time.
That's right, about a mile away and facing in the other direction we had a breakdown wagon and a white Peugeot saloon. Again, the significant point of this is that regardless of our inquiries in breakdown and the RAC and various other people, we've failed to have any success with it.
Well, they may have seen something significant, of course. Now, the car they used to carry out the robbery was stolen in Wakefield, and that's more than 50 miles away, but it had clocked up 250 miles since then.
Yes, it was stolen 24 hours earlier from Wakefield, and incidentally, there was an incident there some 10 days before. We know there was very little petrol in the car, and we're hoping, bearing in mind the artist's impression, that a petrol pump attendant or a garage owner may be able to help us with this.
And finally, the items they stole were pretty distinctive.
Yes, I'm told that 2 of them in particular were unique. There were 2 watches, one which were the Rolex quartz, and they had those markings on the back.
Right, Kuczynski, the second one. Well, if you can help, here's the number to the studio, 081 811 8181, or you can try the Lancashire Police Headquarters, and that number is 0772 617 771. That's 0772, the code for Preston, 617 771. Officers from Chesterfield are here tonight investigating an armed raid on a post office van. The whole thing took place in about 15 minutes flat. Some of the details of what happened have been changed for security reasons, and our film actually begins the day before the robbery on Monday the 27th of July in Chesterfield in Derbyshire. Within a stone's throw of the distinctive spire of St Mary's and All Saints Church is Durrant Road car park, where late that Monday morning David Goldthorpe left his Red Rover. By 7 o'clock that evening, it had been stolen. The next time anyone remembers seeing that car was the following day in the Whittington Moor area of Chesterfield, about 2 miles from the town centre. Around 10 in the morning, Tim Oldman was parked in a cul-de-sac at the end of Sheffield Road. His attention was drawn to the 2 characters who got out of the car.
Well, it was the way they were walking. They looked very purposeful. They were looking forward all the time. They didn't look either way. And the clothes they were wearing, because it was a really nice day and they had big green coats on. The person in front seemed to be setting the pace, and the person behind looked like he was trying to keep up. All I saw of the driver was when he came back towards me, I just saw a quick glimpse as he went past my car. And he was wearing sunglasses and he started to turn the wheel left.
Moments later, a little further up the road, outside the Quick Save supermarket, someone else saw the odd pair.
I think what drew my attention was it was quite a warm day, but both men were wearing anoraks. The first man was a few paces in front of the other. He was about 5'6" with dark hair. The second man was about 5'4" with dark blonde hair, freckles. I suppose I looked at him because of his expression. He just looked really terrified. But there was no conversation between them. It just made me feel really uneasy.
Meanwhile, a security van was about to make a delivery to Whittington Moor Post Office about 100 yards further down Sheffield Road. Across the street, Alwyn Jessup was parking his red transit van outside his kitchen centre.
It seemed very dangerous, very violent, and very loud. I saw the lads go running up the road, and I followed them up in the van till they got to the end of the drive. They ran down the drive, and I thought that they may be going to a vehicle or something like that, if I could get a number.
Police believe the robbers had planned their escape route and that they ran up the drive of a private house, knowing there was a way into a car park on the other side. When Mr. Jessup got to the exit of the car park, a grey or dark-coloured van was coming out. Whoever was driving that van almost certainly saw something significant. 15 minutes later, and a mile away in woodland close to the old Sheffield Road, the Red Rover was ablaze. A mysterious figure was seen emerging as smoke billowed above the trees. Men working in a transport yard across the road raised the alarm.
Smoke over there, something burning.
The same man was seen by another witness further up the road.
It was dressed funny, I'll put it that way. He got a decent suit on, a check cap and dark glasses, and I thought, oh, it's funny, because it was a lovely daylight. And the car nearly knocked him down. The door flew open, the bloke jumped in, laid in front seat, turned round and away.
And remember, that would have been 20 minutes at the most after the robbery took place. Did anyone else see that silver or silvery blue saloon car at about 10:20 on the morning of Tuesday, the 28th of July? Detective Sergeant Neil Perry and his colleagues here believe that the two men who carried out the robbery may well have been ducked down in the back seat of the car. And do you recognise the sandy-haired man? We have that good description. He has a pale complexion with freckles and hazel-coloured eyes. He's in his mid-20s and he's not very tall, about 5'4". And did you see that Red Rover after it was stolen on Monday the 27th of July? In fact, you may have seen it being stolen from the Durrant Road car park. The registration number was J694UBL. If you saw it at any time on Tuesday the 28th, please give us a ring. The officers are waiting now to take your call if you can help on any of that. We're on 081 811 8181 here, or you can ring the rest of the team back at Chesterfield Police Station, and that number is 0246 220100. That's 0246 220100. And our next case is an armed robbery on a security van in Staffordshire. For obvious reasons, it's important to avoid publicising security details and routines, and you'll notice our reconstruction is deliberately vague at times. The film actually begins 5 months before the robbery took place at a car auction at Measham in Leicestershire. The Protect Security Company had ceased trading in 1991, and this was the last of its vans to go under the hammer.
Right element now to the Protect home. It's a Camden 610 Fiorino.
Bob Sutton, a second-hand car dealer, was keen to buy it. He'd bought 3 previously, which had sold well. This time, however, he had a rival bidder.
At £1,400, 15 bid. £1,500, £1,600 bid at £1,600. Any further bidding at £1,600 and 50 bid, £1,650. Any more? £1,650, £1,650 once, £1,650 twice. Sold for the third of the last time at £1,650. Thank you. Have your name, please, sir?
I was surprised how much the man gave for the vehicle, because it was considerably more than I had given for the 3 previous vehicles. I had not noticed the man before at auction. He seemed like a normal private buyer just looking for a van.
What's your name and address, please?
It's A. Brady, 10 Station Road.
The name and address was false, although there may be an element of truth in it somewhere.
All right, thank you very much then, sir.
Three months later, and 8 miles away, on the Goseley estate in Hartshorn in Derbyshire, the van with its distinctive strip and logo was seen on numerous occasions parked in the area throughout June and July. Do you know who owned it then? Wednesday, the 19th of August, the day of the robbery. The Protec van had travelled some 40 miles to the town of Perton in Staffordshire. At 10 o'clock that morning, Group 4's security van drew up at the back of a parade of shops.
Get back! I heard a screech of either tyres or a fan belt, which quite concerned me, and went to the back of the door to see if my car was all right. And as I got to the back of the door, the Group 4 van was just driving off.
The guards were ordered to drive towards the neighbouring village of Pattingham, avoiding the main roads and sticking to remote country lanes. 2 miles on the outskirts of Pattingham, the guard missed a turning he'd been instructed to take, nearly driving into the yard of a meat wholesaler's.
When I saw the Group 4 van coming down the lane, I thought that there was roadworks down Jenny Walker's lane and that the van was doing a detour to try to get back onto the main road. But when I see the van reverse, I presume it must be making its way down the ford, which was most unusual for a van of that size to try and attempt to get down there, because it's quite a rough road.
Although the witness didn't see the Protec van, police feel sure it had gone ahead through the ford. Beyond the ford is an empty field.
Do what we say and you won't get hurt.
The security van was robbed and the guards abandoned. The Protec van continued along the narrow lanes for another 2 miles, passing through the villages of Trescott and then Dimmingsdale. And somewhere along that route, another vehicle would have joined them. Then, at the little hamlet of Lower Pen, the usual peace and tranquility was suddenly disturbed.
It sounded like a van to myself. It stopped sharply, and the rate of activity that was going on, I knew there was something wrong. At this, I went to have a look to see what was going on. The vehicle was high performance, it shot away. It must have been 4-door, because the 3 doors slammed. It was low, because we couldn't see it. By the time I got to the end of the drive, the vehicle had gone out of sight.
The Protec van had been abandoned under the old railway bridge. Well, Derek Baker, we didn't see what actually happened with the robbery there, but we can say it was no picnic, can't we?
We can indeed. The people who carried out this attack were both effective and ruthless. And it's fair to say that the 3 security guards had a pretty tottering time for half an hour or so, and they were in genuine fear of their lives. Obviously, because of that, we wish to capture these people, but also we believe they're connected with 5 other similar jobs in the Midlands region over the last 10 years, and they've made an awful amount of money out of it.
So it is very important to catch these men.
Yes, it is indeed.
Now, you do have 2 artists' impressions.
Yes, we do. The first one is of the man we saw in the film at the Measham car auctions on March the 3rd, and it's quite a good likeness, we think. Yeah, we describe him as about 6 foot. He's a broadly built chap, and he's got short, mousy hair.
And the second man was seen changing a tyre on the van in the Nottingham area.
Yeah, this is an interesting sighting of this chap. We've got a witness who said he was flagged down by a man with a van and helped him to change a tyre. In the van with the man was a woman with long blonde hair. We would describe the man probably his early 30s, stocky build, quite smartly turned out, and it's quite an interesting sighting, this one. It's at a place called Bramcote, 2 or 3 miles outside Nottingham on the way to Derby.
So somebody might be able to corroborate seeing the van around there.
We'd hope so.
There's no direct link, of course, with either of those 2 men and the actual robbery itself. The Protec van was around for 5 months between March and August. How much do you know about what happened to it during that time?
Well, there are quite a lot of interesting things about the van, 2 in particular. When it was sold, almost all the markings and livery were still on it, except on the driver's side, the P and the R of the Protec were missing, and the 558, which was part of the telephone number, that was also missing. They've been replaced by the offenders, They've been cut out professionally, measured professionally, cut out professionally. We'd obviously like to know anyone who can remember carrying out such an obscure order. The other thing about the van is that within 2 weeks of buying it at Measham, they went to the trouble of re-registering it with Swansea. They again used the name Protec, but they gave an address at 99 Princess Road, Moss Side, Manchester, and they taxed the vehicle. We feel this would have got through an ordinary police check thereafter, but obviously we're very keen to know what part this address in Moss Side, Manchester, the 99 Princess Road, plays in this matter.
So it may be in Manchester as well, Hartsall,
Yes.
Nottingham, Manchester.
Oh yes, a lot of connection.
What about the description of the robbers themselves? They're obviously very vague indeed.
Yes, they are, because as we saw in the film, 2 of them have got helmets on, and the third one has got a ski mask. I would say that they were probably all in the late 30s. The first 2 attackers, one was white, just under 6 foot. The second one was Afro-Caribbean, just over 6 foot. And the chap in the Protec van was probably slightly below that height, and he appeared to be ginger and possibly freckled.
And they may or may not, of course, turn out to be the men in the artist's impressions.
No.
Well, if you can help Mr. Baker and his colleagues, and incidentally, there is a sizable reward on offer for information leading to conviction, £25,000. The number to ring in the studio here is 081 811 8181, or you can ring the incident room in Stafford direct, and that number's 0785 223654. That's 0785, the code for Stafford, 223654.
It takes an exceptionally callous man to shoot someone in cold blood, someone who's lying on the ground and offering no resistance. In fact, the crime we're showing next is so cold-hearted, police in Berkshire are hopeful calls will come from professional criminals, as well as more law-abiding viewers. In particular, there may well be a car thief watching who's not too keen on being charged with attempted murder. In Slough, last November, a Rover 820 SI was parked on a garage forecourt awaiting service.
At that point, I thought, just the customer. As he drove off, the boot flew open. He drove off at a very high speed, which I thought was very strange.
It wasn't the owner, and the car disappeared for 7 months.
Right, we're loaded up then.
Tuesday, the 30th of June. It's a routine morning for Nick, a guard, or custodian as they're called, for Security Express.
Good morning, Control. This is a radio check, over.
Receiving you loud and clear, over.
I joined the company 6 years ago. The route we were on that day is a route that I've done quite often. It's beautiful scenery, it's a good route, and I was working with a good team.
I was at the junction of Newbury Street when the car went past me. I noticed it because it was red, it was very, very shiny, and you notice things like that in a small village like Lambourne. He was about late 30s, slightly tanned with a receding hairline. I followed him toward the centre of the village.
Meanwhile, the van had left the nearby village of Wantage and was heading for Barclays Bank in Lambourne.
You girls got the tennis on?
Well, I'd heard on the telephone that the van was on its way, and I didn't really want it to interrupt my lunch.
What game's this in? Is this a bet's game?
You could be playing, it's your age group.
Thank you very much.
My attention really was on the television, although I was sat in the window looking over my shoulder, occasionally waiting for the van to arrive.
Okay, John, let's have the money. Come on, bring the phone.
Christ, it's a rain.
Dad!
Hello, police emergency.
Their attention wasn't on us, it was on the van, so I felt perfectly safe, but
completely distanced from the whole thing, as if it just really wasn't happening. It was only then I became aware of a pair of feet sticking out in front of the van. A couple of guys actually went over to the guard, as it turned out. But as they lifted him off the floor, the expression on his face was just total shock.
I didn't actually see the gun actually shoot me, but I just felt as though somebody kicked me in the leg really hard. And the pain, I mean, the pain was incredible. Initially, I thought somebody just sort of kicked me. And then I actually went to put weight on my leg, and it was like somebody driving a nail into it. It was absolutely terrible pain. I've sort of never experienced pain like it.
2 streets from the market square, a villager was calling in for fish and chips.
When I heard the sound of this high-revving engine, this guy was really going for it. Fairly well-built chap, black curly hair, thick moustache, round, chubby face.
2 miles outside Lambourne, this witness was heading along Newbury Road.
It's 1:30,
I noticed the car because it was turned sharply into the hatchets. I noticed there was 2 figures in the front, and when the car stopped, I saw another car parked behind the hedge.
I haven't worked since I was shot. It could be a year until I'm back to work. People like this have got to be stopped.
Here's an impression of one of the robbers. He's in his mid to late 30s. Incidentally, there's a big reward on this one, £10,000 being offered by Security Express for information that leads to a conviction. The number here in the studio, as always, is 081 811 8181, or you can call the incident room in Newbury. That's the number there, 0635 31000, 0635, the code for Newbury, 31000. And do please persevere if the lines are busy. The number of people trying to ring the programme has actually doubled since the series first came on the air 8 years ago. We've put in quite a number of new lines, even so, as I say, please keep trying.